How we doing? This right here is the ZHIYUN Crane 2S. Can you see the logo? And this right here is the ZHIYUN Weebil S, which is my current favorite gimbal. I like how small it is. I love the dual grippy thing. One here, one here. So the question I have, and maybe you guys have too, is why would I pick the Crane 2S over the Weebil S? So I'm gonna unbox it, we're gonna take it to a national park and get a bunch of fun test footage, document our findings, and see if it's worth it. Is it better than the Weebil S? Is it just good for different situations? We're gonna have to find out. Wow, that's a honker. Oh my gosh. The actual gimbal herself, oh my gosh, it's just thick. And one of the new things about this gimbal is it has a carbon fiber handle, so it's solid, but it's not extremely heavy. They're actually decently close. This is probably a little heavier. Apparently this gimbal has a new locking mechanism, much more sturdy. So on the Weebil, it has these little tiny locks on the Weebil S, and they've actually like snapped before and stopped being locked. I do appreciate that they upped the build quality on this one. We got our 3 big batteries. This thing has a claimed battery life of 12 hours. I hope there's a little charge in these because I need to go film some footage. Oh sweet, we get tripod feet. That's nice. Here we go. It worked. Reloading batteries into the Crane 2S is a lot like reloading the Halo 3 rocket launcher. It's time consuming, it's kind of a pain in the butt. You have to unscrew the entire bottom portion of the gimbal, reload your batteries, then screw the whole thing back in. I wish they could come up with a design similar to the Weebil S. That's what I like about this form factor, the dual grip form factor, is you can leave this thing set on the ground and reload your batteries because they're in this slot down here. Yes, that's just one of the downsides of something like this, but this thing is huge. It's
really big.
So we're here at the...
Why did it go that way?
Okay. We do have IBIS on in the camera. The X-T4's IBIS is pretty good, so I usually keep it on with gimbals unless I'm doing like sport stuff, because then the IBIS will get a little wonky. Watch the curve. Yep. We have the Sigma 18-35, the Moment 2 to 5 stop variable ND, X-T4, and the Movo shotgun mic, the Movo Pro. So it's a relatively beefy setup, but we might throw the 50-100 on later, the Sigma 50-100, to see if the Crane 2S can handle that. And that will really show if the motor strength is better than the Weebil S. My hips hurt from running.
So we're gonna do a test, little mini scene here. So I'm gonna take Zachy Maeve's backpack. I'm going to put my silly toy inside of it. I'm gonna walk up to this really cool stone semicircle here, take the toy out of the backpack, and then do a trick.
So with a triple click of the trigger, you can go into selfie mode if you dare to wield this thing as a vlogging gimbal. It is extremely beefy. So now we're gonna test the gimbal with IBIS on in camera like it is right now, and then do the same shot with IBIS off to see how much IBIS is actually helping. A lot of gimbals have really micro jitters in them, and that's kind of been a problem with a lot of these more affordable gimbals. So we'll see if the ZHIYUN Crane 2S has that same problem, or if it's fixed. We'll see. IBIS on, going as steady as I can, pan follow. We are still in pan follow, but IBIS is now off. I'm walking like an absolute militant marching band student, just dedicated to my stability. This is crazy, I can film all the way down. I'm noticing that this gimbal is really strong compared to other gimbals of this size and this price range. The fact that I can completely tilt the gimbal in POV mode and it doesn't shake at all. Like, I'm completely vertical now. The gimbal is not even struggling, and I'm moving it quickly. You could definitely not do that on the Weebil S. This is really beautiful. Oh, what's that? Hands-free camera operation? Whoa. Well, clearly I'm not great at it yet, but there is the ability to use your phone to control this. So there's a little joystick set up here, and you can just weep-boo, weep-boo. This Crane 2S does utilize Bluetooth 5.0. Usually I'm not a fan of apps with filmmaking gear in general. I like to pull it out of the box and just use the dang thing. But they do require you on your first setup to open up the ZY Play app to activate the gimbal before the motors will turn on. So at first I was like, are you kidding me? Can't I just use the thing? Then I did it, and it was extremely fast and easy to use. And then also you can upgrade your firmware with the app, which is still crazy to me, how I can use my phone to download something and then magically just flies into the gimbal and supercharges it. I did notice that the dial on the gimbal is a little bit plasticky and just feels a little cheap. It's similar to the Weebil S. It's not gonna break, it still does what it needs to do, but it does feel slightly cheap. But the rest of the gimbal is awesome, feels great. And when I was testing the vertical mode, I did notice that the back motor isn't like the Crane 3 where it sits kind of down at a 45-degree angle. It's right behind your camera. So you might run into issues where when you activate vertical mode, it might knock your microphone off or just get stuck kind of in an awkward position. So I did have to take my microphone off, but I found a place to put it. It is properly balanced, but it was vibrating a little bit in certain positions in the vertical mode. That was a sick ass shot. The one thing you might not care about as much is this gimbal does have a new algorithm for their motors. I don't know if that's just like a marketing thing that they're saying, but I kind of believe it just because of how smooth this thing is. I can just tell this thing can hold a beefy setup. So you have the Crane 3S as their big Mac Daddy gimbal that can hold, you know, relatively large cinema rig setups. And then this 2S could hold something like the Red Komodo or the 1DX Mark III mid-range beefy setups. And then the Weebil S is still really strong for its size, which is really impressive. Like, I had no problems holding my X-T4 with a cage with the Sigma 18-35, which is quite a bit of weight. So it kind of just comes down to what camera setup you have. If you have a smaller camera, get the Weebil S, unless you just really like the single grip style gimbals like the 2S, just like the big beef stick. Depends on what rig you have and how much weight you're carrying.